So I wanted to cheer everyone up and say that actually things in Britain could be worse, and it's worth pointing out that there is a sort of right-wing revival in Britain, and I think also there might be a Labour government in charge. They do still hold a lot of power, and that is rather unfortunate. However, Keir Starmer is the most unpopular Prime Minister in the history of Ipsos polling, which is quite something. He's minus 66 in net satisfaction there, and 79% of people disapprove or are dissatisfied, and only 13% of the population are satisfied.
And it's quite impressive how quickly he pulled that off, because Thatcher had to be in power for like 10 years before she was like hated at, that sort of level. Mm-hmm. And even Boris Johnson, who did all of the crazy shit that he did, I mean, the lockdowns and the Boris wave, it still took him a good 3 or 4 years to become truly hated. Whereas like Starmer just walks in and just nails it within the first 6 months.
I also think that 13% is probably people who work for the state who've explicitly had a pay rise under his watch. And so they're like, well, I like this guy. He's giving me more money. So it's basically people that have been bought off. That's how the public employees work, is that you get people to work for the state and then you give them pay rises at the expense of the private sector, and you buy their votes. That's why they expand the government constantly. Also, probably why that exists.
Also, dyed-in-the-wool reds or pinkos.
Well, many of those are turning to the Greens now as well, aren't they? Because he's not left-wing enough. So he's got this impossible situation where if he goes to the right, the left hates him, and if he goes to the left, the right and maybe even the centre hates him at this point. And so he's got this impossible situation to navigate. And what is he doing to help himself? Well, he's getting headlines like this. This was yesterday. Worried about immigration. Starmer says you're racist. And of course, this is the issue, immigration. That is the hot button issue of our time. It is the thing that most of the electorate are concerned about the most. And by calling, well, he didn't explicitly say that. He said reforms policies were racist
and immoral.
Mm-hmm. But it's also a policy that's very popular. It's something that people do actually want, to remove the indefinite leave to remain and reverse the Boris wave, because of course the Boris wave is the most egregious wave of all, because it's from the third world mostly. It's
racist. Everyone say it with me. You're racist.
Nobody cares anymore. You can call us racist all you like. It doesn't matter. In fact, I laugh when people say it to me now. It's just like, that word has no power over me. You can't do that anymore. I care too much about my country. You can call me racist all you like. It cheers me on, if anything.
So I'm faced with the decision that I can either let my children grow up in a third world cesspit, or I can get called racist.
It's a pretty easy choice, actually, isn't it?
Not difficult.
I'm not going to abandon my ancestral homeland because of that word. Mm-hmm. It's not happening. It's not going to happen.
And this is a victory for the right, really, because this was being used to shut down discourse. And it's obvious from the very beginning that that's how it was used, because someone brings up a valid policy point, they say that's racist, and then it's all about, I'm not racist, and they're saying, but you said this thing. And it's all about them being a racist or not, rather than, I have this policy proposal that could fix a problem. And that's not happening anymore, which is good. Hands are now unbound.
The best thing is someone calls you a racist that you just scoff and carry on with your arguments.
Mm-hmm. Why, thank you for noticing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So another thing that's happened is the flag movement, and although this hasn't necessarily had any tangible policy improvements, what it has done is give people a sense that they're not alone, and that actually there are lots of people out there like-minded, and seeing them pop up in your local area, as millions of Britons has been reassuring and makes people feel safer.
With that is a particularly... hats off to whoever did that little stretch.
I know, I picked this one out because it was the most impressive.
Yeah, you've got Northern Ireland, Scotland, Ireland, Wales. You've got all of them, haven't you? Right there. Every single one of them.
I don't know why there's Republic of Ireland there, but, we're mates now, it's fine.
That's the odd one out. One of these things is not like the others.
City of London.
We still love you. No City of London, no. Thank goodness for that. And this sort of thing had Lib Dems waving flags, and they were saying they're trying to be patriotic. Of course, these are the people who will wave EU flags over their own flags normally, but the discourse has moved so much that people who prefer the European Union over their own country will wave our flag if they think it will help them politically. We control the discourse now, basically, is what's
Imagine
going
where
on.
we can get these people in 10 years if we carry on forthright.
Well, what happens is now the Labour Party are sort of dispelling the migrants and the boat people around the country. These little pleasant villages that vote Lib Dem because they've not changed for hundreds of years are slowly going to have Somali rapists creep in, and it's going to be their neighbourhoods, and they're going to have a little bit of a taste of their own medicine for what they voted on the rest of the country. And I do wonder how that's going to affect them, because so many people don't realise that in lots of parts of Britain, people are isolated from the consequences of their voting, and that's slowly going to creep upon them, and they're going to come to the realisation, okay, well, maybe there was a point there.
So what you're saying is, what this picture says is that the Overton window is actually a concept that exists.
Yes.
And that people can move the dialogue, and that elites aren't completely immovable.
Well, my opinion on this is that ultimately elites do call the shots, and what the masses think is not of no consequence, but they can go against public opinion.
I'll take it. I'll take that.
Yeah.
So
I think that what it does is that by shifting the Overton window, the elites have to masquerade as representing public opinion, and I don't think they do, but they have to play by those rules. And so by shifting it so out of their paradigm towards our own, it makes their cost of operation higher. It makes making mistakes more likely by the elites, and it basically makes things more difficult for them.
Well, that's what that image shows, isn't it? As you said, those people wouldn't have been flying the Union flag a year ago. They just wouldn't be.
So what we're effectively doing in moving the discourse, obviously it doesn't affect policy, and it's frustrating, and it does yet. However, what it is doing is making things much harder to govern the state, and also winning over the populace isn't insignificant if things get worse and worse. If law and order breaks down, having a large faction of the British people, native British people, against your government isn't a good thing. Objectively speaking, there is an objective reality. It's not all optics. There is brass tacks to get down to eventually.
The cost of governance you're referring to.
Yes, exactly. And even this, here's a stand up to racism demo, and they're calling themselves a huge crowd of patriots standing up to racism and hate in Newcastle. They're calling themselves patriots. That's interesting. So they see the utility in the language, and even though patriot is sort of more associated with America in my mind, I do think it's a funny word, and I call people patriots as like a sort of tongue-in-cheek thing. We don't really use that term, do we? You're proud of your country.
It's my stand-in for, well, I can't say comrade, so I just say patriot instead.
I just say Britons, true Britons, But, I agree with the overall sentiment that, people who actually are truly patriotic, not these stand-up to racism people, are great. But
it's interesting, isn't it? The Socialist Workers' Party types, until 2 seconds ago, hated quote-unquote patriots, and now they are patriots. Oh, okay. Oh, right, yeah, I believe that. Sure.
I remember that. Do you remember that thing where it was Angela Merkel on stage with a whole bunch of her senior ministers, and like her Home Secretary or something held up the German flag, and she just like turned around with laser eyes, snatched him off it, and threw it across the room?
Yeah.
Well, that's not going to happen here anymore,
No.
is it? And one thing that I think is very promising, because of course we can see that this is all plastic patriotism, right? It's not genuine. They're putting it on to try and win people over. And one thing that is very reassuring is this. So, as we touched on in Dan's segment previously, Keir Starmer announced the introduction of digital ID, and he was saying that it's about illegal migration. And what pretty much everyone on the right and the left said is, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Everyone understands, both, people to the left of the Labour Party, people to the right of it. We all got that you're talking nonsense. No one believes you. And so them adopting this plastic patriotism isn't going to have an effect, because people know what they're up to. They know that politicians lie to try and win elections and try and win popularity. And so by them adopting these things, all they're doing is legitimising them for us. And they're not going to have the desired political effects, because, as we saw, Keir Starmer's the most unpopular Prime Minister.
But do you think he's trying to win an election?
Maybe. But
it looks to me like he's just completely given up.
He's throwing it a little bit. He's just enacting everything he wants to, and because he can't be stopped until 29, he may well be able to do that.
I think he thinks that I'm definitely out at the next election, so I'm just going to do all the weird left-wing shit that I wouldn't otherwise.
But he
get
has
away
also
with.
been flip-flopping a fair amount, and this is the thing that sort of complicates that, because I would otherwise agree with you, but then he had this thing like, yeah, I understand why people want to mass deport people, and he had this brief period of time where he was almost outflanking Farage in rhetoric. Obviously don't believe him, but he was trying to court this opinion. Now he's gone leftwards again, maybe he'll go rightwards again, and
Yes.
of course this flip-flopping doesn't win him any favours and just makes him look weak and cynical, and he's electioneering. But at the same time, I think no one believes him anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
It's a good question, Adam, because I posed that as well. It does feel like Starmer has abandoned any idea of getting re-elected. It almost feels like that. Who knows if that's really the case in his own mind? But it absolutely feels like he's not trying even to read the room, read the country, just forcing through the agenda.
It's still a really good deal. I mean, you or I would jump at it if we were told, okay, you can be Prime Minister with an 80-seat majority for 4 years, or whatever the majority is, for 4 years, but then after that you can't be it anymore. It's like, yeah, we could get loads done in those 4 years.
Yeah.
Even if we're not going to get elected again.
Think of all the people I could deport. Oh, millions. There's also this. This is somewhat confusing and goes against this notion that Keir Starmer wants to appeal to the techno-globalists and the left and doesn't care anymore. He's just going to enact what he wants, because his own Home Secretary was saying, we will deport immigrants unless they earn their right to be British, which is still not far enough in my opinion, but is at least trying to court some sympathy, isn't it?
It's all just complete bullshit, though, isn't it?
Of course.
It's like when David Cameron came out years and years ago saying multiculturalism has failed. Great, that's a nice soundbite. That's a nice bit of red meat. But you continue to just do the multicultural thing,
yes.
harder, if anything. When he comes out and he says, we'll get immigration down to 10,000. Didn't. So that was just a complete liar. It skyrocketed, in fact. So they can come out and say something like this. That's all well and good. And the credulous among us can say, oh, that's good, isn't it? That's a piece of red meat. But it's just
A lie.
It's just a lie.
Exactly what you're saying here is my point, is that no one is falling for this anymore. It's been, politicians have been lying about immigration for so long that no one takes them at their word.
But so you're saying that, yes, it's all a lie, but they feel the need to say it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Right. Because we have, not we, us three necessarily, I'm sure we've helped a little bit, but the Overton window in Britain has shifted, and now they've got to adopt our rhetoric, which means that it's going to be easier for us to supplant the current ruling elite once there is a government in waiting assembled to supplant it. This doesn't exist yet, in my opinion. I don't think there's any clear successor, and I think that Reform are much of the same. They're the teal Tories, aren't they? That might be marginally better than them. However, it's not going to go nearly far enough to actually address the problems. It's still going to continue, just at a slower rate.
I mean, normal for Raj, but still.
It would be a case of, it's just a case of, Nate, Mr. H Reviews, put it very well, calling it an exercise in filibustering. The governments for years and years and years and years have just said, we're going to do something about it. We're going to make immigrants do X, Y, Z, jump through X, Y, Z hoops. We're going to reduce it to whatever number, any small number. And then they just don't. So all of it is just an exercise in filibustering, just wasting time whilst we're continuously invaded.
I would even put it as buying time even to allow that to happen in the first place.
Right. Yep.
But there is good news. The majority of people in all regions of Britain support mass deportations.
I've not seen this. That's good.
It's almost like it's inevitable.
It is. I agree. Yeah.
I wonder who called that early on.
It's our very own Beau Dade. Well done, Beau. I always believed in you. Even Scotland, 60%. Look at the North East, they're 72%. My very own South West, 70%. East Midlands, 71%. I think if Essex were its own self-contained thing, it would be the highest. So well done, Beau. Giving you all the credit for that.
Like the southeast is full of wishy-washy. Well, 43%.
Do you know why that might be? It's because that's where the foreigners are, isn't it? Of course it is.
Well, I suppose they come in through there, don't they?
Yeah. So even London, 55.9%. It's interesting, isn't it? That even in London, there's a majority somehow.
It's the northeast got the highest. The Mackhams and Tackhams.
Yeah.
Super based.
So well done in the northeast, East Midlands and the southwest. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back for that one, that last one. I think Essex deserves an honorary mention because I think the way the borders have been drawn up there, it's been done out of its probably highest percentage, I think, because that is the stronghold of deportations at the minute, isn't it? Well, interesting that it's the people displaced from London a lot of the time as well.
Yeah, I mean, Essex has got a long and glorious tradition of rebelling. Very, very long and very, very glorious.
Some Anglians.
But it is Kent and Essex which get the brunt of the small boat people.
Mm-hmm. That's very true, yeah. And this is very surprising. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. So, support for illegal migrant mass deportation by 2024 vote. Even a majority of Liberal Democrats, slowly nudging over 50%, want mass deportations of illegals now. Labour, obviously under 50%, still about 45%. Other is mid-40s as well, similar to Labour. Obviously, the Greens, being the most left-wing, is just under 30%. But the fact that it's even approaching 30% and is not zero for the Greens is interesting, isn't it? That also, I thought it was interesting that Conservative is higher than Reform.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
that is very interesting, yeah. Operation Bowden, clear them out. We've got to clear them out.
Well, because there's not many people who vote Tory left these days. Did you see that poll that came out? There's only going to be 45 of them after the next election.
I think I've figured it out. It's all of the really old people that don't follow politics but just hate foreigners and vote Conservative by default, thinking, is this the box I tick to deport them all?
Well, yeah, but I looked at what the 45 safest Tory seats were. So if they are reduced to 45, and it's a third Englishman, it's a third the other lot, Welsh and... I'm speaking like a god briefly. Bring it back, Samson. I want that all the time. It was a third the other lot, like Irish, Welsh, Northern Irish, Scottish, all that kind of thing. And it was a third, like Pakistani. That and other...
They just want to go home. They want a free flight home, don't
they? So the Conservative Party is going to be like a third Pakistani after the next election.
It's very interesting that people throw a lot of shade at boomers for being the problem, being libtards and things. But the thing is, when you find, or women shouldn't be allowed to vote or whatever, or all immigrants are, all of them are just purely tribal for their own interests. No, but when you do find a based boomer, a based woman, a based immigrant, they're usually super based, right?
It's more zeal than a convert, right?
That is often the way.
Yes. Also, women shouldn't vote.
There's no need for that, Dan. Some of our audience are women. They're lovely people.
No, and that's exactly why. So we can more accurately look after them. I'll stand by that.
Okay.
I mean, in Dan's defence, I don't think anyone should vote anyway. It's a waste of time. But
that's a good point.
Let's have one Lord Protector who rules by the sword.
Yes.
Don't threaten me with a good time, though. I'm joking, of course.
I will not.
There's also this. This was, I think, back in April of this year. These are people calling for the mass deportation of illegal migrants. There are now 21 supporters in Parliament for this. Of course, previously, there were very few.
Oh, Andrew Rosendale, Rumford.
There's a few here. There's traditional unionists, Conservatives, Independents. It's mostly Conservatives, DUP there. It's not really surprising.
None of the Pakistani Conservative MPs I see on this list.
No. Funnily enough, they're not turkeys voting for Christmas.
See, James McMurdoch, are not all the Reform MPs on it?
No, that's interesting, isn't it? I think it was because it was tabled by Rupert Lowe.
Right.
By this point, an independent. So Reform were a bit sour on him, weren't they? Some of them. Except, I think, McMurdoch, is the most sympathetic of the Reform lot to Lowe. From what
he literally started in Tower the other week, so there's that.
Bit of a legend, isn't he? And then we've got this exclusive polling commission for Restore Britain as part of our mass deportation campaign. Here we go. The majority of British public supports deporting women and children who are in the UK illegally. So even when it's framed in that way, a majority support it. I'll deport the children. I'll deport the women. And obviously the fighting age men.
We don't want to break up families.
No.
Don't want to break up families.
Or extended family.
Yeah, those.
And it's also 50% support, only 22.4% oppose, and there's a decent portion that just say don't know. I don't know how you can't not know what you think.
A lot of people just watch TV and don't think.
The NPC vote is don't know, I guess. And there's also this. I found this hilarious. This was a left-winger. I think she was volunteering in a homeless shelter or something. She says, "I'm in a homeless shelter at the moment and most here are right-wing. They don't understand it's left-wing values that give them this roof over their heads. And it's also, I will add, left-wing values that probably put them there in the first place. Because it's probably the homeless that understand that, hey, all these people came in and supplanted us. And if even the homeless people get it, then maybe there's something going on here."
Left-wing values. That's an oxymoron, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure what she means by that. What values?
Yeah, what values?
Destroying your country.
The pursuit of power, that value.
Mm-hmm.
They've got one value, that one.
Flooding your country with murderers and rapists. Is that a value? I don't know. There's also this, and of course I'm not a big believer in public protests, but what this did show is that there's an outpouring of support for patriotic movements.
According to the BBC, that's 30,000 people.
I don't know
Yes.
about that. It's also very difficult to head count. I never know how people even
It's
have
a hell of a lot more than 30,000.
It looks a lot more than 30,000 in my opinion. I think that's probably closer to, 100,000, if not more, maybe? People were claiming it was like 3 million people. I don't know. I don't know how you can tell.
And that's not all of them, because that carries on off the pitch.
However, it was one of the biggest rallies I think there's been in a very long time, probably since the Iraq War protests, I think. That was probably the largest in British history. And you get old Labour people here just saying it's normal. I'll play this a little bit. This is Trevor Phillips, and he's always been a little bit more on the moderate end of Labour, but he's a Tony Blair man. And so this is basically the opposition having to begrudgingly admit that, yeah, it's pretty normal. Most people have seen this. I'm going to play it briefly. I'm not going to play all of it.
The most alarming aspect of the event was just how normal the vast majority of the marches were. I spent an hour or two amongst them, and my own impression was that they were mostly the sort of people you'd meet in a country pub or in half-time queue for the loo at football or at a concert. There was a sprinkling of black and brown faces, and the event was brought to a close by a gospel group singing Jerusalem. All that must worry the traditional mass parties, Labour and Conservatives, now
You get the
polling at
idea.
less than...
Yeah.
So the point being that even a Labour man on Sky News is admitting that a bad man Tommy Robinson rally was just normal, full of normal people. And that, although I don't think these rallies achieve much politically, at least the optics of having lots of people show that they're passionate and nothing bad really happens, and people go on the news and say, yeah, it's just normal people. That is a victory. 5 years ago, that would have not happened.
It's worth it to put the fear of God into the commies every so often.
That too.
And also, I mean, Trevor Phillips has always been, until fairly recently, sort of a multiculturalist, globo homo type, leading the charge in that. I think he's only just calculating that it's best for his career now in media that he says something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need Trevor Phillips' permission to be allowed. It doesn't matter whether there was a gospel and there was a few black faces in the crowd. So what? Trevor.
No, I very.
Oh, Trevor says it's all right, is it? So it's all right. Fuck off.
I'm very much in agreement, but it does show how far things have gone that he feels the need to save his own skin by saying these
It's a fair
things.
point. No, it's a fair point.
And then here we've got Nigel saying welfare will be for British citizens only. This may well have been a reform policy all along, but it's nice to see him stating it publicly. One thing that I have liked seeing is end the Boris wave, because Reform was talking a lot about, well, let's reverse illegal migration. But illegal migration is like, an egg cup of water in a sinking ship on the Titanic, right? Is not really that big a deal compared to legal migration. So seeing the leading party in British politics talking about ending the Boris wave, which is the most egregious wave of legal migration, obviously I want, lots and lots of people deported, not just the Boris wave, but it is a start towards mainstreaming, mass deporting people who have come here legally rather than illegally, because the discourse has been stuck on illegal immigration, and that's not, in many ways, it's sort of like the trans debate, in that it's a very small minority and it gets a disproportionate amount of attention, when actually most of the people that cause problems in this country are here legally, and they need to go.
Yeah. The illegal thing was a distraction.
It was.
I will just note, Beau, that everything that Nigel is saying now is the set of things that got you and me thrown out of Reform as candidates.
I had noticed that, actually. Yeah, I had noticed that.
Yeah.
Your problem was that you were ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Happened, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, so what you're basically suggesting is in 6 months' time, Nigel will be like, women voting, no, that's out.
I don't think he'll go quite that far.
All right. Well,
but it does seem that with them increasing in the polls, that the discourse is changing. Whether you should believe Reform and Farage, whether they have the political will to do it, whether they are actually going to do it when they get to government, if they get to government, is a different question. I am sceptical personally. However, it's still better than nothing to see this sort of thing banded around. And I don't want people to lose hope, because there's no need for that. And I think that there is hope. And here, Nigel again saying Reform will deal with the Boris wave, the biggest betrayal of voters in modern times. This sounds like it could have come out of the mouth from our very own Beau here in that article that got you kicked out, which was actually what I was going to get to after this. So the fact that he's saying things basically the same way as we would say them on this podcast is good. Should you believe him? That's up to you. Is it going to translate into electoral success? Who knows? But things are tipping in that direction, it seems. And people are not falling for people wearing this rhetoric as a skin suit, because people are aware that you actually have to have a track record and be genuine about it. This is all promising. The future is ours.
It is a significant change from that interview you did with old
Stephen
Edgington.
Edgington,
It's just impossible.
Politically impossible to mass deport illegals.
Yeah.
Well, and you know how this works, right? His advisors watch us and then feed those lines to him, like softly, over a period of months. And then he's like, oh, yeah, that's actually a good idea.
Whispering in his ear, it's inevitable.
Worm tongue.
Say inevitable, Nige. Say that it's inevitable.
Next, he'll be indistinguishable from Steve Laws. Give it a few months. If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.